My name is Marten Schilstra, and I work for a company called Fabricards, and you can tweet at me if you like. If you don't like it, then whatever. What are decorators? Well, let's see who has ever heard of them and who has used them.
In JavaScript, I think.
Yeah, in JavaScript. Okay. Yeah. Well, they're obviously not this. Well. So what are they really? UDCats coined them as decorators made it possible to annotate and modify classes and properties at design time, which is a lot of technical talk. It's a proposal for the ECMA 262 community, which develops the standard. It's championed by UDCats, which also is the main core dev of Ember, and Jonathan Turner. And Jonathan Turner is a developer for Microsoft's TypeScript, and TypeScript also is experimenting with a different flavor of decorators than I'm going to show now. The proposal is still in stage 1, and just to give a quick overview of how one goes through, how a proposal goes to the committee. It starts at stage 0 as a draft. Stage 1 is very experimental, and 2 is reasonably stable, and 3 and 4 are almost done. So stage 1 is very experimental. So not a lot of implementations are available. So let's start with an example. Here we have like a small object with first name, last name, and a function that adds the two names together and gives a full name. But what if we try this? Then you get my name. But there are some users that abuse your APIs, and so they do something like this. They assign a full name to your function, and then, well, can anyone guess what happens now?
Steve Jobs is not a function.
Yes. So that's not fun. So let's. So the error should have been thrown when someone assigns a string to your function. So fill early, fill fast, file often, so you get better stack traces and all that kind of good stuff. So let's turn this around with a decorator and make it a little bit better. So not much changed, only one line. If you haven't seen it yet, it's there. It adds a read-only decorator. It's almost unobtrusive. You don't have to do a lot of weird things to add it. And so let's try it again. So some idiot does this, and then, well, type error for him instead of for me. So hooray. And what makes it work? Well, they are just functions, so it's really simple to write them. They have one signature. The first argument you get is like the target object where your decorated function or value is installed upon, and so that's the object. And then then the second is the property name, so it's in this case full name, and then you get as last you get the descriptor. The descriptor is a internal thing which has a few properties about how you can interact with a property on an object. So, if we say descriptor.writable is false, then whenever someone tries to assign to a object with or a property with the descriptor writable is false, then it will throw that type error we just saw. So just a little bit more about descriptors. You have two flavors of descriptors. One is the standard value descriptor, which has 4 attributes: value, writable, configurable, and enumerable. The value can be any JavaScript value. It's the value that the property has, so it can be function, object, an array, whatever. Writable is can you assign to the value, and configurable, if you set it to false, then you can't ever change it again because you say you can't configure it anymore. And enumerable is will it show up when you when you do some enumeration functions like for in or for off and other things. So that's the simple value descriptor, and then you get the accessor descriptor. This one is from ECMAScript 5, like you can do the get foo and set var. The descriptor looks like this, so the get and set functions are the individual functions for your accessor, and then you also have the configurable and enumerable attributes. So here are both. So well, my title of the talk was Decorators with Ember.js, so I guess I have to talk about that too.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I don't understand configurable.
Configurable. Okay, so let's go back one slide. Configurable is if you set this to false and you try to change this descriptor again and update it, then it will throw an error and say you can't do it anymore because you set configurable to false.
You can't change the descriptor again.
No.
Yes.
You can get it, but you can't set it anymore. And yeah, if you have questions, then feel free to ask them, of course. So you probably kind of use decorators already in Ember, but they look a little bit different. They look like this. So the Ember computed with first name, last name is actually simulates decorators, and then, well, I think everybody who used Ember has used them. So, and well, so why decorators? Because we already have decorators. Well, it makes it look much cooler, much simpler. Takes less columns. So, and well, you can stack them, so you can have more decorators than one, so looks beautiful. You can also do it with the macro functions of Ember, so like alias. So this is the property name now, and that's the alias. The Ember.computed alias is now can look like this. You can also do it by sort by, and it looks really neat. And max by, so yeah, looks good. So how can you use them now? Well, you have to put this snippet in your Ember CLI build to tell Babel that you want to use ES7 decorators, because Babel doesn't enable them by default, and they have a good reason for that, because it's still experimental. If you want to use the alias and the sort and the max decorators, then you have to install Ember computed decorators.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That syntax is really familiar. I think it's called EmberScript.
Yeah.
Yeah, EmberScript does decorators, yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I would call it decorators, but it does like stuff like that.
Yeah. That's possible, yeah.
But now it's not
Now it's
script.
official, because I tried it and it
starts
doesn't
to
work.
become official. Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, it's by UCats, and EmberScript was like, well, yeah, inspired by. So there's a pitfall using this. JSON doesn't support decorators, so it doesn't recognize them, so you get a lot of errors. So you have to switch to ESLint. So And also there's another small pitfall, which is you can create a lot of side effects with decorators. So be careful with that because you have awful lot of power using decorators. So that was like the introduction to decorators. Now I'll just show.
Can I ask you, what's a common pitfall? Just one that you have been encountered while using it.
Let's go back a little over here, I guess. Yeah. So what you see here is the full name and the first name and last name are now arguments. So they automatically are fetched for you when the function is executed. I tried this with observers, but that makes everything synchronized. So you synchronize all your computed properties, and that's horrible when using observers when they are getting triggered like 100 times. So be aware of observers, but yeah. In general. And I can show you later what I can do a small live code demo of one other because I don't have a slide where it's on. So let's see. Now I'll probably want to mirror my display so I can.
Are you using decorators in your project?
Yes. We're not yet using them in production, but one that's going to hit production somewhere later, we'll use them. And maybe if it gets a little bit more stable, we'll use it on other projects.
And have you found sort of concrete benefits? I mean, the syntax is nice, I like it, it's very understandable, but can you think of an example that where it really shines for your actual real?
Well,
everyday use?
it's a lot of sugar, yes, but the combination of multiple decorators are really nice. So you can let's get the unit test example out then, and then I'll probably have to.
We use them in our backend, which is Python. We use them a lot.
Yeah, I use it as
Especially the combination is really powerful.
Yeah,
So,
I use it in Python
as you
well,
can
so.
see here, this is not something that works today, pitifully, because it would be awfully cool. It's kind of ripped off from XUnit. If somebody knows XUnit, it's the unit test framework of C#.NET. First we have the module for component is now a decorator, so it decorates a class. You can use a decorator to include some shared test things. So, you have 5 flavors of something, and you can include the same tests for. Kind of bit if people know Ruby, like the shared examples from Ruby. And here's the scenario kind of thing from XUnit, where you have a scenario with 2 values, and then the value parameter will be the first value from that scenario, and the outcome will be the second one. So you can do multiple scenarios with one function, a test function. So that's something you can do with decorators. And then let's do this one. So come on, syntastic. So it's not valid JSON, as you can see. Let's see. So this is how you write it today, and what you can do with it is get rid of it and just say computed first name. So all the basic stuff is only mechanical refactor. You can just remove this, and I need to get rid of this. So that's how you simply, in like 10 seconds, refactor to like a decorator syntax. You don't have to do anything weird. You can add like the parameters here and then make it even more sweet, like you saw in the sample. So more like this. That one. So it's really simple to refactor to it. You can do stuff like this. You can make a required decorator and then just say required, and you can say like, well, then you don't need like this if you use required. And well, you can obviously also change the observer thing. So last thing, and you can get rid of all the.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
The execution order does not influence in any way the arguments passed to the function that is described. So the descriptor on top on line 9 is a computer which has 2 arguments.
Yeah.
It should pass them to the function it's describing, right?
Yeah.
But if you add the read-only, it does not alter the arguments passed to the function.
In this case, I always forget which way they are evaluated, bottom up or top down. So forgive me if I picked the wrong one. But what happens is either the topmost or the bottommost gets past the descriptor first, and then the next one gets the same descriptor, and so you can do everything with that descriptor, and as long as you keep returning the same descriptor, then
Right, so it's conventional to return the descriptor at the end of your function that is described. That's the descriptor.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you do return something else, then yeah, it might work, but.
Yeah, and I have another question. As long as you use Babel to do this kind of meta programming, you will be able to inspect what is generated at JavaScript level. But once this becomes part of ES7, will you have any debugging capability of what these annotations do?
Well, the decorators are just functions, so they will end up in your stack trace when they are.
You can inspect the actual JavaScript, say ES6 code that is being, stuck in.
Yeah, well, when the class or the object is parsed or compiled or whatever you call it in JavaScript, then the decorators are executed, the functions, and then if some error happens there, then it obviously ends up in your stack trace in the debugger. So you can just, it shows up. So.
Okay.
So yeah, I had one more example, I guess. So
There are no like built-in descriptor or built-in.
None.
no.
So you
I don't think there will be. I hope there will.
I hope there won't either. These things.
So
worry
this
me.
is like having fun with a lot of descriptors. Yeah, and so yeah, the greater than and lower than don't work like they should in Ember, because the first or the second argument should always be a number. So, but well, you can modify it and make it work with the property, which makes it even more awesome. So here's an example with a Ember data model. You can like do belongs to and async, so you don't have to pass an arguments hash. You could also do like invert. I don't know what it's called.
Inverse property.
Inverse of or something like that.
Inverse property, I guess.
And then you can just say like whatever. And it's like really sweet and sugary instead of having to.
So if I may ask a question, again, to reinforce what someone asked before, I don't know who, what's the advantage of using, and especially in this particular case, this syntax over the hash passing syntax? Since it adds a whole lot of sugar, but it doesn't necessarily add any functionality.
No, decorators, I agree, decorators don't add a lot of functionality, but I haven't found really good examples of, but they do make your code more clear to see what happens. And
Because if I were to show this to maybe an intern and he would not know what descriptors are, he'd be really confused about this if he's seen models before which are just using the
But
normal hash.
it's still in an experimental phase.
Of course, yeah, I'm just discussing it.
Yeah, I understand that.
yeah, also, but if you're new to Ember, then also the now built-in computed properties are also quite alien. So
Yes, that's true.
I agree, but where can I read the APIs? Because I mean, now you have defined attr and belongs to and async,
yeah,
and I recognize them because I use normal Ember models and I can think what they might mean.
yeah.
But where can I see what kind of
You would import them,
I
I guess,
would-
right?
yeah,
Like
you
you would
import
import adder from decorators, and then in your project you would have a file
so,
called.
so they will be on top.
Yeah, it's
you would,
like
you would import them.
so it goes like this: import, computed, or adder, or belongs to.
From Ember.
Yeah, or from decorators or
from like
in this case.
Yeah, okay.
from like Ember / computed or something like that.
Yeah, alright.
So that's how
Is
it.
it-
And
They're just
defined.
functions,
Yeah,
Okay.
but they're functions that are past other functions or descriptors.
yeah. And well, the exception to that is they can be past classes, but yeah. So that's really the end of my talk. So thank you. If there are still any questions, then well, ask them now or come to me later and ask. I can tell you a lot more.
Yes. What's the hash argument passed to the descriptor again? It's with the enumerable and the.
Let's just fly back. This one, you mean?
Yeah. So if I were to change writable to false, so that would allow me to change the value of the descriptor, but not the, but also, or it prevent me from changing the value of the descriptor, but it would still allow me to change the descriptor itself.
Yes.
And if I were to change configurable to false, it would make it so that I could not modify the descriptor anymore, or am I
Yeah.
incorrect about that?
Yeah, you can modify the descriptor, but you can't set it back on the object, and because it will throw an error if you. So yeah, you can modify it.
So if I were to, there's no private in JavaScript, of course, we all know. But if I were to change the descriptor to make it make the value unwritable, I would still be able to change the descriptor itself and make the value writable again.
Yeah, you can better use a weak map and technology like that, but I see where you're going, and yes, that might be possible.
So having it to be private is just more of a case to prevent people who don't know what they're doing with the API to stop them in their tracks right at that moment.
Yeah, yeah. They added the accessor kind of descriptor to do encapsulation of your internal variables.
Okay.
They're not private then, but then you can underscore them and have accessors, and so you can do some encapsulation of internal variables.
I see.
So that's what you. Yeah.
Maybe just a more global question, because you are obviously kind of already into ES later.
Yeah.
Where do you see this going to? Because I have some people that I follow on Twitter, and I see some more kind of, I read articles on Ponyfoo, probably you recognize them, you know them as well. That there are more like kind of this kind of sugar that is going somewhere. How are you coping with that? Because you said you're using decorators in one project, but you're thinking of using another project. There are also like classes and other kinds of stuff. How do you go forward with ES later? How are you seeing that stuff? It's like, what are you going to take into your projects, and what are you pulling back of your projects that you don't want inside them at this stage?
Yeah, well, this one is like very experimental, but well, I trust you, the cats, that it will come somewhere.
So you
And well, another good reason is that all these decorators, like I said, are just mechanical. So if they drop decorators from the committee, then all I have to do is find them in place instead of refactor a lot of things. So that's one thing why I dare to use them. Another reason is why I dare to use them is like Stephen Penner and Robert Jackson are maintaining the add-on for Ember, so and they do a lot of great work. I try to help them when possible, but they made the add-on that makes all of this shit work. So it's in good hands. That's why I trust ES7 decorators. And but things like async await and other things, generative functions, those generative functions are actually standard now, but so I might use them sometime, but those are really experimental, and I don't use them yet. So it's more like what do I trust this? Do I trust this move for a bit? And then that's like how I evaluate all. It's not like, oh, it's something new shiny and then I'll use this on production tomorrow and see what happens. It's not something like that. But in comparison, if you think this is new stuff, then try Ember. Ember moves every month to something new, so like the ECMAScript standard is completely slow in comparison with the way or the speed Ember moves in. So yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure true.
So yeah.
That's an answer. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Okay, thanks again for